Hello and welcome to the last word on Spurs. We do hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Thank you so much for joining us as we are here bringing you first reaction to Tottenham Hotspur off the mark under Ange Postecoglou in a 5-1 victory over the Lion City Sailors. If you're listening to the show for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're of course on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And look, it's a familiar panelists that we've got on tonight. Some of our regular returning guests bringing you instant reaction to, of course, that win for Tottenham in pre-season. Before we discuss that victory, let's get amongst our panel, who are ever so, as always, delightful with a mixture of different food for our audience on audio at some point when they'll listen back to this thinking, what is going on? Bringing us back on the crazy train, as Ange calls it. McQueen referenced it first. We've got the wonderful instructor conductor in the house. Lee McQueen's back, Lee. How you, mate?
Absolutely loving it, Rick. Lovely to be back on with you wonderful, gorgeous fellas and all of the listeners and viewers as well. So I've actually just stuffed down, for the viewers, there's a bit of an inside joke in agreement, which is stuffed down a curry just before coming on air. And there's a little bit left over. So if you do see me chewing on a bit of chicken tikka masala, then that's the reason why. But yeah, absolutely brilliant to be back. And look, I mean, I'm absolutely sick and tired of all these shots we're having. Absolutely sick and tired of all these shots we're having. It's a joke. 37 shots, 11 on target. I mean, it's just awful. It's awful. So I'm sure we'll get into it, Rick.
Isn't it so weirdly, just quickly on that, isn't it weird saying instead of a positive corner count? I can't even say it. I'm even surprised still.
I know. I mean, you said it on the WhatsApp earlier. And like when I retweeted out the stuff from Last One Spurs to promote tonight's show, I put the stats on there and I just... 37 shots. I mean, let's talk about the opposition later, but at the end of the day, 37 shots is pretty awesome.
Yep, it is. I say we'll be discussing the opposition, the manner of it, the level of it. Join us back on Last One Spurs. Always a pleasure. Got the wonderful Richard Cracknell back in the house. Cracks, broaden a smile.
I know. I'm still gloating from my victory in the green room before we come on out of guessing 4 of the 5 dishes that Macca had in his curry. And 4 of the 5, and I hit the post with the last one as well. I went poppadoms with a bit of mint sauce, and it was poppadoms with a mango chutney. So, and guess what, Rick? I got 4 out of 5 with no inside information either. I had no previous knowledge of what was going on there either. No inside information of Lee's curry habits. Carry on.
It's going to be an interesting show. And I'll say, along with the game, of course, we will be covering the news that Joe Lewis is facing a charge. Of course, we'll be covering that towards the end of this Last One on Spurs. And making up our panel tonight, last but so not least, we've got the wonderful Patrick Tyrant back with us. Pat, how are you first, before we get into the game? All good?
Yeah, I'm good. Free Uncle Joe. That's what I'm going to say. Free Uncle Joe.
Well, I'll tell you what, some will be saying maybe don't free him, depending on how they feel about Tottenham. So we will get into all that for sure. Lots and lots to cover.
I'm good. I was really excited to see us back in action. The opposition obviously weren't that great, but it's good to see us get a good run out. Richy, full of confidence. Lo Celso impressing again. And obviously it's great to be back with all of you guys. Shout out to everyone in the comments, everyone tuning in. Yeah, we're here. That's all I can say. We're here.
We are here indeed. We are. Now, again, I think we will make that point, as Pat referenced to Rich as well and Lee, that, look, can only be here to judge the opposition that we're playing against. And ultimately, we can only take away from what we see on the field. We know the opposition are, with again, being in the utmost politest way, they are at an inferior level. But having said that, Spurs can only beat what they've got in front of them. And ultimately, again, this opportunity to, comment on the games like this is just to really see where this team is at. Joanne asks, why are you always late, Ricky? Well, I was just affording Mr. McQueen the opportunity to literally plummet down the curry.
And it's my fault, is it?
Well, and on this occasion, Crackers decided to make a game of it, and guess what Lee actually ordered, which ended up becoming quite mad, because Cracks literally ordered.
It is true.
I think Cracks had the receipt of what he ordered, which is quite mad. But look, we are going to try our best to try and steer our way to the game itself.
Rick, always a booner, never a gooner. Come on, hashtag it.
So this show is one for always creating the new hashtags. It is, and the new headlines. Lee, let's open up with you, mate. From the very top. Look, Richarlison bagging a second half hat trick. Spurs recovering from an early concession to beat the Lions City Sailors 5-1 this evening. I mean, we went behind. We've turned the game around, of course, and we've got the first trophy on board the Tiger Cup for the Ange Postecoglou era. Lee, give me your thoughts on that victory against the Lions City Sailors and how much we should really play into that victory and some of the players' performances from your perspective.
Well, when you talk about trophy, Rick, easy Tiger. Hey, see what I did there? Oh, here we are. Look, I think it was a good... I think when we came on the other day after the Leicester City game was cancelled, we were kind of a little bit downbeat because obviously we were a bit behind, and Pat come up with some outrageous stats about all the other teams been playing in their pre-seasons and we were a little bit behind. So we needed this game for sure. I just do want to also mention as well, the next day after that game was cancelled, Ange Postecoglou did make the team do a 11v11, which looked absolutely pulverising on them. So they did have a good intensity. I know it was against each other, but they did have a good intensity. But we needed this game for sure. And I think that everybody that knows the Singapore League, obviously we've got massive Singapore League experts on the show tonight, and obviously in the comments as well, know that Lions City Sailors were, they were formidable opposition. Easy for me, Turkles. No, look, they've won more titles than us. I mean, and put it up there, and said it earlier in the group, and it cost them one of our own. He said, these are team partners. So hang on, they've obviously won more titles than us. But I think, on a serious point, I think that their fitness and their level, they're in mid-season, I think, correct me if I'm wrong. So they are in a competitive season, even though it's way below the Premier League standards, we know that, but they are in competitive mid-season. So there's going to be a little bit tough. But I think that, I've got to be honest, I'm absolutely loving it. I'm loving the fact that we've got 79% possession. I know you got the stats. I know you will have them. But 79% possession. It was 78% or whatever it was against West Ham, who were Premier League opposition. 37 shots. I mean, it's pretty awesome. Some of the interplay. This is what I look for I don't look necessarily at the result. There was a couple of messages on the WhatsApp saying, this should be 9-10-0 or whatever. And in the end, it ended up 5-1. We were always going to concede. I think we're going to say that every week once the season starts, regardless of how many centre-backs we get in. I think we're always going to concede. But does it matter? If we end up winning 4-5-1 every week, does it actually matter? I mean, I'm right on that Ange train, so I'm enjoying that. I think that it was a really good run out. I don't look at, per se, the result. I look at the technical ability or the, kind of the fitness levels and all that sort of stuff. And I have to say, again, I don't know if you agree with me, there was some one-touch, two-touch football in that football match today that was very, very pleasing. Like, some of that, I'm thinking, really? What, Regulon can do that? What, really? I didn't ever see Sarr do that before. And that has to be pleasing. I mean, we're talking about 2-3 games together and maybe some training sessions. What's it going to be like after 4 weeks, after 5 weeks, after 10 weeks? I mean, it's encouraging, isn't it, Rick?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, you have to put in perspective, look, that's just only our second pre-season friendly after a real disrupted schedule. But look, we are now off the mark under Ange Postecoglou. I think, as Lee kind of alluded to there, it is coming out of you, Cracks, really refreshing to see so many players involved in the build-up of attacking, moving the ball quickly, asking for it in space, is exactly what we want to see. And I think, again, when you put into perspective of having to really look at what we've had to do from a departure perspective from the last 3-4 years, playing under a real defensive style of football, to be able to, in the space of what you're looking at 95 and a bit minutes from a game perspective, be able to transition themselves into playing a lot more of a fluid brand of football. I think we have to be fairly excited about what's to come. Very cautious again, because the opposition that we play in Lions City Sailors, although they've got 3 games left of their season, are an inferior level. But, I mean, as King Hoddle says on the screen there, Cracks to share it with you, 69 shots in the 2 friendly games we've had, 24 of those shots on target. And despite, as we say, the opposition that we're facing being, in this occasion, relatively poor, you would never see those kind of stats under those last 3 managers.
Bang on, King. Bang on.
How much do you take away, Cracks, from what we are seeing, maybe removing the element of what we call the opposition at this point?
Well, look, Lion City sailors, if they are indeed sailors, you wouldn't want them looking after your super yacht if you're lucky enough to own one. And but moving on swiftly, look, I am really pleased with the way we've picked up Ange Ball. Let's call it that for want of a term, and how quickly he's got his ideas over. And like you say, Rick, from where we've been under the last couple of managers and the type of football, that horseshoes around the edge of the box with nobody really doing anything, to playing this type of football, I've been actually quite amazed. I thought we'd see a little bit more of a mixture of it, of people not being so to dare is to do, if you like, with the ball. I thought the muscle memory might still be there a little bit, but it's not. And we was all looking forward to the West Ham game. Like Lee said, results matter not. The way we played in that game was absolutely fantastic. That was the first game. Everybody genuinely upset that we didn't get to play Leicester. So that tells its own story, in that we was actually looking forward to Tottenham playing. I guarantee you, under the last days of the empire with Jose and with Antonio Conte in their sort of end of days with them, we'd have been, thank the Lord for that. We aren't actually playing today. I can go and do something else now. I haven't got to watch that. But we was all genuinely quite upset that we didn't get to see it. And then today, again, just nice to watch. It's Tottenham football. It's good to watch. Shots getting put away. Okay, we go 1-0 down. Of course we do. There's your worry in all this, Rick, is we've only actually faced how many shots? I mean, stats was there. Was it 5 or 6? Well, yeah, 5 shots, 3 goals. Shots.
Yeah.
70%. Like, what's that? 72%. Rate of failure with our defence. So I mean, they're huge numbers. So that's got to be looked at. The rest of the team, like we were saying last season, under when it was Stellini for 5 minutes and Ryan Mason for 5 minutes, and then some bloke that they picked out the crowd for another game, and whoever. We all did keep saying that if we've got somebody that gets us playing some football, we've got some footballers in that team, with Sonny, with Decky, with Basuma, with Maddison now coming. There's some players that want to get on the front foot and play some attacking football. That's fine. It's just when you get to that back four, that's where the clown's car is still smouldering away. So, that's something they really, really got to address. Don't leave us that couple of players short yet again, Tottenham, because this isn't an Enoch thing. This being 2 players short in a squad. Even my dad would say it from like the sort of late 60s and 70s, and then from the 80s, always those couple of decent players short. And this time round, that happens to be a couple of defenders. If we can get those over the line, we've got a decent old team there on our hands.
Yeah. Can I just say, just quickly, I sorry, I know we've got to be in Patton's one, which, sorry to cut off for Cracks, I think you're absolutely bang on the money. If we sign Tapsoba and VDV, serious things might be happening in this club. Please do not leave us short, like always. And fair play to you, Crackers. It isn't just an Enoch thing. You're right. It is a Tottenham thing. We cannot cope without strengthening that defence. Sorry, Rick, to interrupt.
No, it's fine.
Please.
Pat, to bring you in there again. A lot of people in the comments making that point. The goals that Spurs have conceded so far in pre-season, it's 60% when you look at the shots that have hit us, 5 on target. But I think, again, we'll come on to that point and what Spurs need to do. I think we all know what we need to do. But if you look at the trend of performances, the players that we've got, with the likes of Maddison, Lo Celso, Solomon, Perisic, Richarlison, and then you add in whether, like I say, Kane can find that form, Kulusevski can find that form, Son can find that form, we've got a pretty lethal attacking unit. So, again, the thing is, we know defence is a huge hole for us. And you'd say that we're really, as the guys have alluded to, a couple of real transformative defensive signings away from really having a really positive side next season that we can really all look forward to and be excited about. So I just wonder whether Ange is looking at pre-season and has already got the gauge of what needs to be done. We know we can accumulate a number of shots on target that we've shown. But again, defensively, we've shown we are really, really there, a concern. How do you weigh up, Pat, on the two games, what we've seen so far and as a whole?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first and foremost, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good morning, depending where you're tuning in and listening in for the first time. Obviously, it's great to be back on and have everyone tune in. And I'd like to say, I mean, Tottenham we're almost like a tale of two stories, or like chalk and cheese. We know from an attacking standpoint, last season we scored so many goals, but we also let in so many goals. And it's a bit worrying when, like, for example, I was watching the game and literally with their first attacking phase of play or first attacking moment, they scored. And there's a bit of a calamitous goal. The keeper was kind of in no man's land. Pedro Porro, for all of his attacking brilliance going forward, he was at fault for me. Him and Vicario, it was almost like a mix-up, no communication. I know it's still early days and they're obviously understanding each other. And that's what you're going to have with a new back line, new goalkeeper. You're going to have these moments where miscommunications or people don't know if they should come or go or whichever. And yeah, it was an easy, it was a fortunate finish as well. But it was just much of a muchness, and it was embarrassing really to go down 1-0 to those guys. With all due respect, obviously you can only beat the team that's in front of you, and yes, in pre-season you do have to gradually up the levels, but that's a team that we shouldn't be conceding to. Thankfully, in the end, the scoreline was, quite pretty much where it should have been. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like Lee said, for everything that we're doing, all of the progress it looks like we're making offensively, if we don't get two centre-backs in, and I know we're stuck on these names of Tapsoba and Mickey van der Ven. Don't get me wrong. Yep. There's other top centre-backs out there. It doesn't have to be those two, but ideally we would like it to be those two. It looks like we've done our homework on these guys. We've understood that they fit us. I mean, we definitely need a left-sided centre-back who's good going both ways. Mickey van der Ven looks like he can play at LCB and also cover at left-back. Fantastic in possession and out possession. Got a brilliant recovery pace, and yeah, very good at passing the ball. And Tapsoba looks like he's a very solid and calm centre back. So they look like the two guys that would really transform us to that next level. And we all know, like, this is what's frustrated me as a Tottenham fan. We all know, attacking wise, we've had brilliant players, and even when we've been bad, we've always been able to turn it literally with a flick of a switch and beat teams like Man City. We can beat Man United. We can go toe-to-toe with anyone on our day. But obviously, we've had a lot of days when it's not our day and we lose to Leicester, or we lose to, we'll concede late goals to Aston Villa or whoever it is. And it just seems at the moment, I don't know if it's negligence. I don't know if it's just, naivety. I don't know if Daniel Levy's just stubborn, if he's essentially stupid. I don't know what it is, but we're all crying out. The whole world can see what we need. And it just seems, I just don't understand it personally. I really don't. And like, I'm happy that we've got Maddison in, and I'm happy that we've got Solomon in, a guy who, to be fair, I wasn't really thinking that much of, but every time I've seen him, he's impressed me. I mean, today he looked brilliant. He's really good at dribbling, touch tight, can hug that.
He's got a Lennon about him, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's got a bit of Aaron Lennon vibes.
Aaron Lennon / Eden Hazard type of vibe to him, and he can draw players in. He looks like he's going to be a really good player.
Yeah, I think he looks better than a kind of just a freebie that's
100%,
plump out the squad. I think he's going to be a big influence, Pat.
You know what? Sometimes at the time you don't realize almost how good of a deal we've got. And I don't want to go too early, but sometimes it takes a while for us to understand how good of a signing it is. Like almost when we bought in, a good example is when we bought in Jan Vertonghen. At the time, a lot of people said, yeah, he's a decent defender, 13 million. But it's only a few years later you realize how good of a signing it was. And I almost had that feel with Thingamajig at the moment, how he could be at that level where he's almost like a game changer.
He's a good player, that Thingamajig.
We've got him on. He's not the left side of centre back, is he?
I'm not having that. I'm not having Thingamajig.
Rick, you know who Thingamajig is, don't you? He's the player that Pedro Porro was pointing to pick up the runner behind him for their goal. Yeah. I don't know if you saw that. As the players coming behind Porro that ultimately went through, Porro's pointing behind him for somebody to pick up that runner. Like, Pedro, look how many different... you're in a 4-man defence. You're there and there's 3 in front of you. Mate, there's no one behind you. There's no good pointing him out. The linesman's not picking him out, and we've not signed Thingamajig yet to pick him up. So it's your problem, Porro. You pick him up. You deal with him. You're pointing for someone to pick him up. Oh, hang on a minute. Oh, that'll be me then, will it? Yeah, it will be you, Pedro. Like, crack on, mate. It's your job.
Both pointing at each other, and I'm like, what's going on? Honest questions, because obviously you guys know my thoughts on David Raya. And everyone was telling me to calm down. Vicario's good. What are you guys' honest thoughts on Vicario so far?
I'll go first. I feel there's an element of maybe a bit of a flappiness to him, and that worries me. That I watched a couple of Brentford pre-season games already, and they are so intent on delivering the ball from a set piece into the box to score their goals from corners.
Yes.
And we've already conceded 4 goals from corners already. So that is my biggest concern at the moment, that I worry for him that, again, it's going very, very early on, a goalkeeper that I've only seen 90 and a bit minutes on. He's going to have to transition himself very, very quickly to the Premier League, and it will be a learning process. And people won't want to hear me say this, but I think we are going to have to back him, and we are going to have to show some resolve and be behind him when he makes those mistakes, because like any player, they only come through the bad times when they've got people on their side. And I think we have seen in the past that, I don't want to be negative, but we have got a tendency as fans to sometimes get on players' backs. I want to say it the most politest way. And I think Vicario is a young man, young goalkeeper coming to a new league. He's going to need our support. He's not at the level of Hugo Lloris when he came over here. Again, very, very early on. He has, to be fair to him, on the other side, Pandevil's advocate, he's made a couple of decent saves so far. But that's my only worry at the moment, that from a set-piece perspective, I do worry about him. But again, I don't know whether you've got an opinion on that, Lee and Cracks, before we do, like I say, dissect the game in a bit more detail. Lee, do you have an opinion on that? On Vicario?
I'll hand over to Cracks, because his sons play in goal, and he's the goalkeeping knowledge. Yeah. I agree with you. I completely agree with every word you just said. So I'll just hand over to Cracks on that, mate.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm in the goalkeepers union, and like I've always said, make a mistake as a forward, you slice a ball, you miss a pretty easy goal, everybody puts their hands on their heads, then claps and goes, never mind, go again, it's okay. Make a mistake in goal, guess what? It's the cruelest, loneliest position of the lot. He's well rated. He wouldn't have been my first choice, but he is well rated. You may see this season a bedding in period, and you're right, Rick, we have got to try and stick with him whilst that takes place. Again, some players move in from overseas, hit the ground running, others take a little bit of time to settle. Something else I've got a little bit of knowledge of from moving overseas from the UK to Spain, it does take time. I'm a retired man, and it still took me time to settle in, get to know a place, Now be a pro footballer with all the pressures that come with that. And there is, I know they're well paid, but there is pressures and that come with it all. So he's really well rated. I would have taken Marmadashvili in a heartbeat. He would have been my first choice. But his stats are good. Vicario's stats are very, very good. We may just have to, as I say, have that bedding in period, especially if we don't do anything with that defence as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Which will make it 3 times as hard for him, because he's going to be facing. And the way we play as well, we are going to leave ourselves open at the back with that style of play. And if we haven't got centre backs as well, that goalkeeper could be looking worse than he actually is because he's just facing some completely
Exposed.
impossible.
Basically exposed.
Yeah, exactly. He's just going to be exposed. So,
Lee,
so let's see.
Yeah. Lee, can I say this to you? I think it's also very unfair on this goalkeeper that's coming in that we are yet to buy maybe a prominent centre-back that's going to feature before the start of the season, and he may not even have the chance to play with that centre-back before that first game against Brentford, if that is the intention. So already he's playing with defenders in front of him that may not necessarily be the defenders, or we hope are not going to be the defenders, that is going to start on the opening day. I think that's even more unfair on him when you consider the fact that he's got to not only bed in to a new country, a new team, a new system, and then you're actually going to... Exactly. And then you've got to change in front of him those defenders that he's got to automatically have an understanding for. And naturally, as fans, if goals going against him, we're going to be frustrated. But again, that is my only concern. And a really good question here, Kalen says, what if we do sign these new centre-backs and still end up conceding lots because of the football is too expansive? Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, I love Kalen. He's his friend of the show. But, what happens if I walk out of here and get run over by a bus? Or what happens if, you can't say what ifs, buts and maybes. I think just on I think that we will sign some centre-backs. I think Kenny's point is really good in the sense of it is more open and expansive. And I do think we need to be a little bit wary of the Premier League. Don't get me wrong, I'm not deluded. At one point, we had 10 outfield players in their final third, which was absolutely joyous to see as a Tottenham fan when you've just watched that dross for the last 5 years. But you've got teams like Man City and Liverpool and Arsenal and Chelsea and and the rest of them that would rip you apart in the Premier League in that scenario. Bournemouth, you can get in behind. Do you know what I mean? So we're going to have to have some reinforcements here. Just on the goalkeeper thing, the thing that I noticed, again, these are little nuances maybe that we'll look for differently, is he was better with his feet today than what he was against West Ham. And he was also better of that sweeper keeper thing, like coming off and filling that space. And I'm no goalkeeper expert, crack as you are, but what I thought that he was better at today than versus West Ham was that space that's in front of him, he was filling it. So in other words, he wasn't rigid to his line, he was coming off and doing certain things. And there was a point, I think it was in the second half, where Porro got into a little bit of trouble with the ball himself, and then it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touch football, bang, 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 and they were being pressed, and they got out of it, and that I looked at that and I thought, actually, if we can do that quite a lot, that was the sort of kind of training drills that they've done, and they put it into a game. So I don't think we should be going in on him hard, like you said, Rick, and I think we've got to give him time, and he will make mistakes, but there's an air of confidence about him. I think goalkeepers are mad, right? No offense to your son, Crackers, of course. But
no, he's mad. He's 35 right? Mad. He's mental.
Yeah, totally. And I think you have to be as a goalkeeper. And I think Vicario has got that likability madness about him to be a good goalkeeper. So let's see what happens, mate.
Absolutely. One question I do want to ask, if I go to Cracks, and we'll go to Pat finish on this point before we bring in the team. Cracks, I think, so far what we've seen of this pre-season, and we'll come on to it in a bit more detail, I think Lo Celso has been one of the real key performers. Matar Sarr has been another one. I think even Perisic has been a surprise one for many, bearing in mind, I think there was a lot of links to him potentially leaving the football club. Richarlison, of course, bagging that hat-trick, which we'll come on to. Is it a good thing, Cracks, that our squad players are showing their worth, or worrying that the majority of them are performing much better than what we would have said is the nailed-on starters? And I'm thinking maybe the likes of Sonny and Kulusevski, just to name a few out there. Do you have a take on that?
Well, who would have thought, Rick, that if you bring somebody in with a little bit of a human touch to them, a little bit of a human element, and as I said to you, I was 50-50 over. The old crackometer is really beginning to crank over towards like getting on the Ange bus, because I'm seeing a lot of that Pochettino style of man management with him. Somebody that talks to the lads. You feel like with Ange, you could go and knock on the door and have a chat with him about something going on at home or outside of football, and it wouldn't leave that room. And he'd impart you with a little bit of his wisdom, man to man, if you like, person to person. And he wants to play football as well. So you've got somebody that they actually seem to like as a human being, and somebody that actually wants to play a bit of football. And Lo Celso, definitely, I mean, he came in right at the very end of Pochettino's tenure. Saw very, very little of it. I think he came in the August of 19, didn't he? 2019, and then Poch went November, early December, if I remember, 2019, and then in came Jose. So, no wonder he was walking around with a face like a smacked arse, because it seems like there was a manager that he came for and wanted to play for, that wanted to play football. And then all of a sudden he's had to deal with a couple of managers who you couldn't really go and knock on the office door and have a man-to-man, human-to-human chat with, who didn't really play an expansive front foot football. So all of a sudden, you've got I hate to keep mentioning his name, but a Pochettino-esque type of manager, a warm human that plays football, probably why Lo Celso looks happy. It's the type of football he wants. It's the type of manager he wants. Round pegs, square holes, that's managers and that's players. Some players love the stick. Some players love the carrot. So Basuma, back in the fold. Sarr is in and playing football. So there may be those that look upon it and then go, he's not really my thing, to be honest. I don't like that type of manager, and they'll fall by the wayside. This is the important thing of sticking with a manager for a few years until he gets a squad of players built in his own image. So, I definitely can see why players like Lo Celso now all of a sudden look happy and want to be playing. I loved Ange's response. I think it was to Ali Gold. I'm pretty sure Ali Gold asked a question, or he definitely reported on it. Reports are coming out of Spain that Lo Celso's happy and now wants to stay at Spurs. And Ange just turned around and said, mate, you didn't have to go to Spain to find that out. I could have told you that. I love that. It's just straight talking, human answers. Like, rather than Nostradamus. Exactly. Rather than Nostradamus going, oh, this is the story of Lo Celso. I could tell you he might be happy or not be happy, but why ask me? Speak to the chairman about this. We're not getting that anymore. We're just getting human answers. Long may that continue, let me tell you.
Absolutely. On Postecoglou, he said, I thought it was a good game. They made it hard for us in the first half. They've obviously got a new manager in place too. They brought in some new players. Traditionally, they've always been one of the two strongest teams here in Singapore. So I'm sure they'll get back up there. It was a worthwhile exercise for us. We tried to use this whole 3 days we've had as a block of really putting a lot of work into the players to try and make up for not having that game in Thailand. And this game added to it too. The boys worked hard and they were made to work hard. And I think that's the one thing that I think through all of the interviews we've seen so far, I actually quite like the fact there's been a lot of praise towards the players. And we actually haven't seen that maybe in the last kind of managers, that we've had them tearing into the players, one that torched them before he left the football club, which I think, again, is a real refreshing element to have a manager that at the moment, look, he's finding his feet. He doesn't want to upset too many because he's just come through the door. But I think it's fair to say he's going to make some big decisions in the next, 10, 11, 12 days really before the season starts, where that squad has got to be whittled down. We've got a 36, 37-man squad. That is far, far too big to go into any season when you have not got European football. So there is a lot to do. And what we are going to do, we are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners and audio, taking you into that break. For our listeners and audio, you're going to hear from Ange Postecoglou, who is interviewed by Malsey, and that was, again, an interesting interview for many with Malsey, who tells him all about the wonderful stadium, of course. Malsey tells him about that wonderful stadium and how he should be obviously really excited for what's to come. We all are, of course. For our watching audience here, we've got over 1,000 of you plus watching us live. Again, thank you so much for all of your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. Pat, you have the honour of dealing with the first half team that we're going to come over to you for. So that was, of course, Ange Postecoglou. Oh my God, I struggled there. That could happen. That's all that. That could happen a lot. Shaka Khan.
Check Khan.
Cut Desmond.
Good job we're not live, innit, Rick?
Oh dear. Oh, I've got the team up to save my
out, Rick. Don't worry. Edit that bit out, mate. Don't worry.
Cut it, Desmond. Ange Postecoglou naming his third Tottenham team, even though the second one never got to play the game, as we know, of course, being rained off in Thailand. Again, we saw the element of the fact, coming to you, Pat, that he was using those training sessions beforehand as a key indicator of the team that he was going to announce. And it was, again, similar to that, or if not exactly the same. We saw for Tottenham Hotspur, Matar Sarr, being given a huge amount of praise by Ange Postecoglou beforehand and in that lineup. Heung-min Son finally got some minutes as well. Ben Davies partnering Christian Romero in that defence as both Destiny Udogie and Pedro Porro played together as Postecoglou said they could before the game in his pre-match press conference. That team read Vicario, Porro, Romero, Davies, Udogie, Sarr, Basuma, Maddison, Kulusevski, Kane, Son, with a bench of Austin, Emerson, Dyer, Tanganga, Reguilon, Højbjerg, Skip Lo Celso, White, Perisic, Devine, Richarlison, Solomon. Pat, team, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, I like this team. For what we've got, I'd probably say this is as close to our starting 11 as can be. Some may argue that Højbjerg could come in as the DM or, the 6. But if Højbjerg is looking to move and things are close, I'd understand us going with this team here. Vicario, obviously, is our number 1. That's clear. Romero, hands down, our best centre-back. Ben Davies, he's someone that I've kind of got onto in the past. I'm going to be fair and give him the same chance I'm going to give everyone that's returning and everyone who I want to see flourish at Tottenham. He's probably our best left-sided centre-back at the moment, which says a lot. In my opinion, we definitely need to upgrade in that position. But for what it is right now, he's a starter, so that makes sense. Udogie, brilliant. Every game or every time I see him, he's looking better and better. Pedro Porro, I really like him. But if we're going to play in a back 4, I would probably change him or swap him over for Emerson Royal. Just that Emerson Royal is more solid defensively. I think Emerson Royal is a good right back, funny enough. But we've played him at right wing back for most of his time here, and it doesn't really work. But as a right back, he's very good defensively, and he's okay going forward. I would swap him for Porro if we're going to play a back 4 because Porro makes a lot of mistakes defensively, and essentially he's going to be targeted as a weak link in the Premier League. We saw Leicester attack him and rip him to pieces, and we saw other teams do that. So right now, as it stands, unless he bulks up a bit, not even bulks up, just learns to defend and actually watch his man running in behind, I'd swap him for Emerson Royal. Matar Sarr, as you guys know, I'm a big fan of his. Every time I see him, the kid looks better and better. Brilliant on the ball. That touch from Harry Kane and then Paps basically his chest down and volley, which almost caught the keeper out, was scintillating and just shows how good he is technically. Needs to chill out a bit and relax, but that will come with time. Basuma, we all know how good he is. I didn't understand how people were getting on to Heung-min Son. It's his first 45 minutes. People need to remember it's his first 45 minutes since the back end of last season. He hasn't had a pre-season. He's come in late. He's had an operation. He's been ran. He's literally played 3 years without a rest. And I saw people moaning about him. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, give the guy a break. It's literally his first 45. We're already behind all the other teams. And this guy's behind where we are. So if you put that into context, it's a bit mad how people always going on Son.
And Pat, just on Son as well. Yeah, 20 goal involvements last season with a massive hernia and couldn't even pay. Anybody that hasn't watched or listened to his interview by a friend of Ali Gold and the guy at the journos. By the way, just a quick shout out to the journos that are over there. Chris Cowlin as well, Jason, one of our own. Some fantastic content that's been beamed back. It really makes a difference to us. So thanks for that. But some of the stories, some of the interviews that we're getting, I mean, if you haven't listened or watched what Son has said about how much pain he was in, how can you get on the bloke's back? He bleeds Tottenham Hotspur, and he's not even played a game, and everyone's on his back after 45 minutes.
Son for me, Son is Tottenham through and through. And for me, again, this might ruffle a few feathers, but I would give him the captain's armband. He's that much Tottenham through and through. I know Harry Kane is Mr. Tottenham, and Harry Kane is hands down our best player. But Son has been loyal. As I keep saying on here, Son was loyal in our worst moments. when we had a manager who we all didn't believe in, if we're being honest. When we were down and out, he signed a new. That guy is Tottenham through and through. He plays through pain. He'll sacrifice himself. South Korea about to treat Patrick. Okay, all right, listen, I'm there.
Gina, I want Son as captain as well. Yeah, me and Pat on the crazy
Gina,
train to South Korea.
But yeah, now all jokes aside, I don't understand it. We're the same fans, not me personally, but we as a fan base or football fans as a whole will be the same guys saying, "Oh, we need to relax and remember that these guys are humans. We need to also remember that these guys are going through things." And in the first moment we have where we can actually show some compassion and show some decency, we don't do it. So it's mad. It's just crazy. It's mad.
Yeah,
it's mad.
To add on to that, Rick, what Patrick just said, don't forget that Sonny also lost his grandfather last season as well. And if you look at the family structures of that part of the world, the grandparents are there. They are absolutely there, you know. So the loss of the head of the family will hit somebody from that part of the world far, far more than from Europe or Western society. So you've got all that going on, you know, as Patrick quite rightly said, on the back of what has all come out with Dele Alli. There's stuff that's going on at home that will affect you, you know. So there's the hernia, there's that going on, no rest, and then he comes out and just completely squashes the rumours. Boom, straight away. No, I'm a Tottenham player. I don't want to go there. He could have been having another 3 noughts on the end of his pay pack.
Richie, but that comment,
you know, so
about excuses.
There you go. I love him. Absolutely love him.
It's not excuses. This is just us looking at things from the other side and also remembering that these guys are human beings and they are players and they will have rough moments. They are humans. No one's perfect. They're not robots. They're going to go in and out of form. And even like Lee said, Son on a bad season, 10 goals, 6 assists. That's 16 goal contributions, which for most players is a brilliant season. For Son, that's not the guy we know. We know he can be much better, but cut him some slack, man. This is first 45 minutes of football this year. Like, come on. And it isn't
excuses. All we do on this show is we offer up different opinions. But sometimes they might not be opinions that we actually like fully believe, but we say, have you considered this in your thinking about this player? Yeah. So, you know, that's another angle that this show always comes from is, okay, you might think that, but don't forget this is going on, that's going on. It's not excuses, it's offering opinions. That's all it is. But Rick, that's what makes the show so big and so great, doesn't it? You know, and you just hope that the majority buy what we're doing and what we're offering as content.
I think that's a key thing.
Just quickly, Rick, it's really important because of the show thing. What other thing that makes the show absolutely amazing, and Lee Kettle in the comments pointed it out as well, and you know what I'm going to say, Rick, put the team back up. Pedro Porro's mullet. I mean, let's have this right. You can't unsee Pedro Porro's mullet. I called it last season, and he's still got the mullet, Rick.
Can I just say we're waiting for the official.
Break my heart. We are my achy breaky heart. I just don't think he'll understand.
We are waiting for the official 2023 squad photos to be taken, and I promise you, honestly, Lee, once they are done,
he is like a modern day Chris Waddle, mate, on the wing. That is what it is.
But Lee, the mullet is back. You do know the mullet is back. It's it's business at the front, party at the back with people's hair, the lads' hair these days.
I've had a mullet. I had a mullet back in the day when it was in, and I'm in for it, mate. I need to grow the hair back. I don't think I better get it on top, maybe. I don't know, but I better get it at the back.
Right, you know what's coming now, Rick, didn't you? Paddy on Twitter, our friend with the Photoshop skills, he's going to put a mullet on all of us, isn't he? He's going to get a picture. Come on, Paddy, over to you, my friend. Mullet us up, baby. Mullet us up.
I don't know whether that's been a deliberate ploy by Lee, a segue into what we're discussing first, but you might argue that the hairpiece is better than his defending at present, and that's where we are going to next, coming over the U-Cracks.
Rick, wasn't hairpiece the journalist that held up the Bayern Munich shirt in the press conference?
I think you're being kind there. He's been called other things in just that, I tell you. He's actually having two other things in that. This opening goal, Cracks, coming over to you. Lion City sellers, of course, score, and Twitter in general erupts. Every fan account that are non-Spurs say the season's just officially started. Already the banter comes in from every other rival fan club you can imagine. But it starts with Spurs. Kelly's losing the ball in the midfield. Davies' passing to Sarr wasn't the best. Sarr was caught off balance, and Shawal Anuar gets in behind Pedro Porro to onto a cross, and it deflects past Vicario. And I just wonder, Crack's view at the moment, look, it's 4 attacks, 4 goals conceded in pre-season. Davies getting drawn in really too far forward. Porro caught at the back post. How concerning is the nature of the goals that we're conceding? And based on what you're seeing, are you maybe starting to think that maybe Porro may not be the defender for the start of the season? Emerson Royale's position is once again for him. How do you judge it at the moment based on what we're seeing at the moment?
I'll make Patrick right. I would swap Porro out and I'd put Emerson Royal in now, who was a player that came in, couldn't find his feet to start with, and then he went through a purple patch where he was literally the first player on the team sheet some of the games last season. He was fantastic. Don't know whether he can, Rodney trot a rat's tail. For those listening on audio, the comments are coming in about the hair. Honestly, that's this show, Rick, isn't it? We go off on these tangents and it just becomes the main topic of talk, doesn't it? Anyway, back to Porro v Royal. I'm not sure whether Royal can play that inverted wing-back role, but I think he offers more solidity in defence. Porro is great up front, terrible at the back. Sounds like I'm talking about mullets again, doesn't it? You know, at the front, really good. At the back, oh wow, look at that. So yeah, but again, he's been here 5 minutes, hasn't he? He's come in to the chaos that is Tottenham Hotspur all the time. He's come in and he had Conte there, and then he's had Stellini there, and then Mason was there, and then no one was there, and the guy that bought him, you know, is currently on a wanted list somewhere, and somebody else is supposedly coming in, and now he can't come in because of a contractual. It's chaos, isn't it? So, you know, we just got to get settled behind the scenes, have everything settled. You might argue that what's that got to bleed and do with the players, what goes on here and there outside of the dressing room, but you can bet your life it does. So, look, got to give players some time. At the moment, if he's not cutting the mustard and he's making mistakes when we do reach the Premier League, I've got no doubts that Ange will go, sorry, mate, like you ain't cutting the mustard for me. I'm going to give Royal a chance there. And if Royal takes it, Royal gets it. And then it's down to Porro to go and fight for it back. Now, if he doesn't want to fight for it back, you have to wonder about his minerals as a player anyway. And that goes for every position in that team. I want to see the best player at that time take the slot, and I want to see the player that's been taken off of him to absolutely fight tooth and nail to get back in. That's what gives you a successful football club. You know, it's not going away and sulk. And if they do, you ain't made of the right stuff. It's as simple as that. So, yeah, it's a worry at the moment. It is a worry that we've just conceded these goals. Sloppy. They're not difficult to defend, these goals, but we all know, and we've been crying out for ages for this defence to have a shake-up. This is an absolute priority for the club now. No, nothing else football-wise. That is an absolute priority. So, like we keep saying, I know it sounds like a stuck record. The club has to go out and drop some money on a couple of decent centre-backs. Simple as that. And just try and get some shape and organisation back into that back four. Or what you'd give now, Rick, for a Toby and Yan to drop in.
Wouldn't you?
That pair to drop in. Yeah, in this team now. Oh, man alive. Yeah. Then we'd have something on our hands, wouldn't we? Oh, yeah. I'd be on the Lambooners every night, Lee. Honestly, if that happened.
Mate, I'll be right in there, son. The Rolls Royce and the Bentley of defences. Oh,
Lee,
with the the aggressiveness of Romero to come in as well.
Yeah.
And as Steve Combo just said, a Walker and a Rose as well. If you could take a Walker and a Rose back in that side.
And a Jimmy Greaves. And Jimmy Greaves.
Yeah.
What about Modric? Should we stick Dembele in there as well? I mean, come on. Where's this going, people?
What team is this? Is this the best they'll ever?
Get Bill Nick back. We might be all right.
Lee, can I ask you, and again, look, we don't want to completely pick holes in the whole defence, even though I'm about to for a pre-season game.
Of course you are.
The fact of the matter is Davis given the ball away in the build-up. We then see Udogie caught unaware by Davis losing the ball so far up. We've got Porro completely losing his man for the goal. I'm being honest and saying, look, we've got two or three weeks away now to the start of the season. How worrying is this for you? Or are you pleased to be seeing these mistakes now so that they're glaring enough for Ange to know what needs to be done before that Brentford game? CBs. We know, but listen, we know this. But,
we need CBs, mate.
Yeah, but,
we need CBs.
Okay, but... okay,
no, I mean, all jokes aside, like I know I've been a bit of joking me, but all jokes aside, I'm not too worried about the goals that we've given away so far because it's pre-season and whatever. But if you fast forward to Brentford or to Manchester United, just a Premier League game, and we haven't got that sorted, we're going to be punished. The Premier League is the hardest league in the world. It is the most. It is the most. No, it's okay then. It is the most relentless league in the world. And you can just see a ball. I think somebody said in the comments, so you can just see a ball over the top with the defence we've got. You've got to put a Mickey van der Ven in there. We've all seen that clip, right? Which is why we're all salivating at him. If a ball goes over the top, VDV probably cuts it out. But and maybe with a Romero as well. Do you know what I mean? Because he's not short of pace or whatever. Doggy, I think Decky said in the diary room today or yesterday that Doggy's the fastest person in the squad. So we've got pace at the back if you bring in a left side centre back with pace. But at the moment, today, in that scenario, you put Sanko over the top, you're going to get done. However, what I would say is Liverpool had that problem, didn't they? Remember when we put 4 past them when we was at Wembley and it was their sliding doors moment and all that sort of stuff. Yep. So I think it can be fixed. So to answer your question, I am in all seriousness, I am a little bit worried about the defence. There's no doubt about that. It's the biggest concern. I think Crackers and Pat said earlier, and like my sign just said, CBs. If we get 2 CBs in here, I actually think we can, like Jason said before in a couple of shows, I think we could easily be top 5. It's only 6 or 7 points away from where we was in an utter, excuse my French, ladies and gentlemen, shit show of a season last year. It's only 6 or 7 points away. And I think we've got that in our locker. What I would say to caveat that, my own argument is, if we're scoring 4 up the other end, does it actually matter if we're conceding 2? Because there's that excitement piece about it as well, the feeling of winning big. But we all know, let's not be naive, we all know that you're not going to go and put 4 or 5 past Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal every week. It's not going to happen. And you probably won't do that against, great respect, the Bournemouths, the Evertons, the Southamptons. I know got relegated, but then them sorts of teams, the clubs that come up, Luton's. I mean, Luton's are going to score against us, aren't they? Like, let's be honest, Luton are going to score against us.
This is the defence we're playing against Brentford. If we're not going to improve this in relatively early, in the next couple of weeks, you are going to be worried. Pat, I just want to ask you a question, just in relation to who we've been linked with at the moment. Are you concerned, Pat, the closer we get to the start of the season, Spurs maybe do hit that panic button and decide not to spend the money on the Van der Vens and Tapsobers and go down the route of a Clement Longley to come back, because we know that deal is relatively cheap and can be done. And dare I say, maybe going for the Fulham centre-back, Adebayo, who's only got a year left. You probably get him at a feasible price. Are you concerned by that, or would you still be relieved that we've got different options to what we have got right now, even though we know Longley's ability, as we saw the back end of last season?
No, for me, hitting the panic button means going out and actually activating and getting good centre-backs in. Adebayo is a good centre-back, but he's not. We can't just rest on our laurels and get him in. It has to be 2 quality centre-backs. We need 2 good ball-playing centre-backs.
Laporte, why hasn't he even been talked about?
Yeah, Laporte. Allegedly, Laporte is looking to go to Crystal Palace, I believe.
Not being funny. If Crystal Palace are in for Laporte, what is going on there?
It's crazy, and it just shows the lack of ambition from our owners. And this is why I hate Daniel Levy. And people tell me to chill out. And he's been good for our club, and in moments, yes, but it's moments like this when we really need him to show some ambition and push the boat out. He never does it. Like, we're so close, but yet so far away, and we're always here or there or thereabouts, and then we capitulate. He doesn't show the bottle or the minerals or the metal to really show or give the manager the tools that he needs to then take that next step. Attacking wise, we look good. Attacking wise, sorry, Vicky, let me just finish this. Attacking wise, we look like we're there or thereabouts, but defensively, we're all over the place. And, Pedro Porro or Vicario or whoever it is, I can't really get onto them when we know we know where the glaring issues are. And, for all of Porro's brilliance going forward, he's not an out-and-out defender. So we understand that he's going to have these moments. But we do need out-and-out defenders next to him that can understand and guide him through it. Romero, for all of his brilliance, can't cover two crap other centre-backs. And, Tanganga, someone put in the comments when you put the post up saying that, we're on tonight. Someone said, is this the Tanganga that Patrick's backing? Yes, I'm backing him as a rotational piece, but not an out-and-out starter. So we need two out-and-out top playing or top ball playing centre-backs. Otherwise, we're in big trouble, man. Like, there's no... I can't mince my words.
Do you think that...
Just on that, though, sorry, just on that, like, when people are calling out Pat on, like, if you're, bigging up Tanganga or whatever it might be, not that you were even, but
yeah,
why are you calling Pat out on that? Like, he's one of our own. Like, Tanganga come from the academy. Surely we want him to do well, don't we? Surely we want him to do well. If you give that bloke 10, 15 games on the trot of high-intensity Premier League football, like we've seen against Man City and Liverpool in the past, I bet he can come good. I'm not saying that he's 100%. The answer. I'm with you, Pat. I'm not saying he's the answer, but I bet he can come good. Like, we're so easy to jump on these people. Other players, like Clement Lenglet's had a whole season to show what he can do, which wasn't great. Eric Dyer's had a whole 10-year career that can show what he can do, whatever. Davinson Sanchez. But Tanganga, to get the knives out of Tanganga, I think it's premature. I think crazy. The bloke has not had 20 games in succession. Go and have a look at the stats. Got the blue book. He has not had 20 games on the trot.
He's been thrown in the deep end in a lot of situations, and in some of them, he's obviously risen to the occasion. In some, he hasn't, admittedly, but he was a young player. He's getting to that, like I keep saying, he's getting to that sliding doors moment where he's either good enough or not good enough. But I do want to see him get regular minutes. And Tanganga was better than Ben Davis. Tanganga was better than Eric Dyer. Tanganga was better than Clement Lenglet. So why isn't he given the same opportunities that they're given? But like I said, I don't want him to be our starting centre-back next to Romero. We need better, but he is good enough to be a backup piece in our team. That was my point, really. I don't know why people are always trying to jump on every little thing, but I guess that's Twitter, isn't it?
I mean, the thing is, again, Cracks, to bring it over to you. Cracks, are you fairly confident that when it comes to Brentford, and you guys are all here for Brentford's, do you honestly believe that we're going to be discussing one prominent centre-back difference with Romero next to him? Do you honestly believe that, Cracks?
No, never confident with Tottenham and getting in the personnel that we need. And, as I said at the top of the show, that's not an ENIC thing per se. It's been more intensified under ENIC, that missing out on those final couple of pieces of a jigsaw to give us something to work with. This has been the story of Tottenham, as somebody once famously said in a press conference. So no, I'm really not that confident that we'll get that business done. We should do. It depends, like we've said, depends how brave the board is and how much they want to give it a go. Maybe much of this all actually now depends on what goes on, and I'm sure we'll be talking about him a little bit later on, with Kane. And if we get Kane money in, it might be that money then goes to upgrade the centre-back positions. But even if he stays, that still needs looking after. I was a little bit hopeful that with Ange ball, we might have actually shielded the defence a little bit more with the style of football that we play, that we'd be facing a lot less attacks because we'd be on the front foot. But so far, that's even the small amount of attacks that we faced have ended up being like with goals. 70% of those attacks have ended up being with goals. So look, it's glaring. It's absolutely glaring. I really want them to do it. Will they do it, Rick? Like most things with the club, I'm just not that confident that they'll see it the same and get it done. Make that final push that envelope of transfer payments and wages that little bit more that we've got the room to do so in and get it done. I hope they do. I'm not confident they will.
Yeah,
we're conscious of your not getting a word in your own show, so I'm just going to keep that theme up. Crackers, you mentioned you made a point quickly there about maybe it's the Kane money. Do you think, because I would do this from a business point of view, 100%? Do you think that other clubs like the Tapsoba by Leverkusen's, like the Wolfsburgs, Mickey van der Vens, are looking at the Kane situation and going, well, hang on, I'm going to hang on it. I'm going to come out. It's a negotiation, isn't it? At the end of the day, the Tapsoba scenario's come out. I can't remember. They've just sold the RBF or whoever to Villa, and he's come up. We don't need to sell. We don't need the money. We don't need to sell. But actually, because they're thinking, well, hang on a minute, you're going to do the Daniel Levy on me, negotiate me down from 45 million to 35 million, but you're about to get 100 million in from Kane. So let's just see what the Kane situation happens first, before we end up, pulling our pants down, to coin the expression, or to show our cards. And maybe that's the issue. So a lot of us, and probably rightly so, but a lot of us are blaming Levy for just go and get the deal done. But maybe the other clubs are saying, well, actually, I'm going to wait until we see how much money you've got. So it is a bit of a nightmare, isn't it? On our side, we're going, just get the deal done now. But actually, other clubs might be going, well, let's just see what happens with Kane, because I'm going to stick another 20% on the fee if you sell it. Yeah,
very much so. It takes two to tango in all this, doesn't it? So, it's not all one way that these deals are hard to do. Obviously, it is something that you do get dealing with Daniel Levy, because so many other clubs and chairmen and managers have said, dealing with him is absolutely is really difficult, which in some respects is a good thing, because you want your chairman to get you the best deal for the club. But sometimes he overdoes it. It's that, can I nick that last £3-4 million and ends up losing a deal that would have been a good deal. It's a very, very fine balance to get. But yeah, Rick, we have really got to get that done. Got to get it done. But it might be from the other side of that, walking off the shop floor with your money still in your pocket, hoping the salesman goes, hang on, mate, I might be able to find a way forward to get a deal done here. So watch his space. It's not 5 to 11 on transfer deadline day yet, is it?
Well, it will be if we carry on at this rate. What I will say is that, I think at the moment, for all of the, some of the individual performances that we are seeing, I think that is the tinge of sadness at the moment, that everybody is getting quite excited by some of players' performances that we're going to come on to. But yet in the back of the mind, there is that nagging and niggling feeling that we should be improving elements of this team that are so glaringly obvious, that haven't been there just this summer, that have been there for years upon years upon years. And that is where you're seeing the built-up frustration. One player that I think, again, today is showing his worth, and Ange spoke glowingly about him during the week, is Matar Sarr. Pat, come over to you. He got Spurs a penalty in the 46th minute. He won the penalty by nipping in and drawing that foul from Perez. But on the whole, it was a real busy display from him in that 45 minutes. For me, he was the best player of that half. And you can see why Postecoglou has really been so effective in his praise of him. But a real busy, hurrying display. I just wonder, Pat, if Højbjerg is going to go out the door, would you be so quick to look for an external replacement, or would you be looking to keep Matar Sarr here and have him maybe take that role on for next season? Because I've got to say, in the games that I've seen him, especially, of course, against Milan, I thought he was very impressive there as well. What do you make of Sarr and the potential for him for this upcoming season?
Yeah, I love him, man. I've said it many a time on these shows that I would push him through and allow him to have that place and flourish in the role. Yes, he's young. Yes, he will make mistakes. Yes, there's going to be moments where he does frustrate us as a fan base. Even today, he kind of frustrated me a few times when he was taking long-range shots, which you kind of knew had no chance of hell going in. I know the opposition's not great, so you're not really that worried. But in a bigger game with more at stake, sometimes a youngster, it's great because they have no fear and they just want to show and shine and do everything they want to do. But sometimes you do need a cool head to maybe just pass the ball off and get it back. But in terms of recycling the ball, he's brilliant. He can dribble. He can pick a pass. He can obviously get stuck in. He wins the ball back as soon as we lose possession. Like you said, he got into the box and won a penalty. I like him. I like everything about him. So the fact that we've got Basuma, Bentancur, potentially Lo Celso, potentially Ndombele, you've got then Sarr, Skip, Divine. There's a lot of options there. And I think Sarr is of a quality where you can trust him and play him. And he's going to get better. His ceiling is so high. So he needs minutes. So why not give them at Tottenham? So then he understands the team, he understands the players, and then he doesn't have to go back on loan, come back and do it all over again. So for me, 100%, it's time for him to bed into the first team, into the starting 11, and then push him on. I think he's that good. And the more, like you said, Ricky, every time we see him, we see a different element to his game. We see something that we didn't know he had in his locker. And even for such a youngster, he's such a calm head as well. And he's also good at basically setting the tempo of play, almost like what Bentancur does. Don't get me wrong, I don't think he's of the same ilk as Bentancur, but he's definitely got something about him. So for me, 100% keep him. Obviously, if we can, as the window goes on, there's always potentially a deal that could come about because things start moving. It's almost like a domino effect. But I wouldn't be going gung-ho in the market to replace Højbjerg when we do have a very good option sitting right there.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Again, I think we'll see how Sarr progresses over, of course, this pre-season. Harry Kane scoring that penalty with the last kick, effectively, of the half. And I'll be honest, that Harry did very little else on note, apart from that penalty, to really affect the game. We will come on to Harry a bit later on, because, again, for the fear of derailing the show, we don't really want to do that. And to be fair, again, if you go to Germany or listen to what's in Germany, there's just continuous reports over Harry's future here, there, everywhere. He's been spotted, he's been seen, depending on what you want to believe. James Maddison also involved in almost everything in that first half. Definitely actually much better, I thought, than the first game. A number of shots from distance. And again, one of Spurs' better players in that first half. Kulusevski, again, many quick to judge pre-season and judge him as a whole. I think, again, we have to remind ourselves that players are getting used to a new system, a new manager, a new philosophy. They're having to almost be retrained from playing a ultra defensive style of football to almost a real ultra attacking brand of football. And that's why, again, I'd be fairly at the moment, reluctant to go in on any player at this point on where we are. We're judging them over 90 minutes, if that. They're getting 40 minutes a half at the moment. You would expect under Ange that is going to change in these next few weeks. You would imagine they will get more football. But Spurs ended that half with 74% possession to 26, 24 shots to 3, shots on target 5-1, passes 274 to 102, and 9 corners to 1. I think we can all again say the opposition is low quality, but after 3 halves of football, I think it's very clear to see that Ange is getting that message over to the players in terms of the brand of football they want to play. Just to end this before we go for our break of the show for our listeners on audio, Basuma did limp off the pitch at half-time after going for a warm down, but Postecoglou allayed all fears in his post-match press conference where he said he did all the runs at the end, think he was exhausted. I haven't picked up anything from the medics. It's fair to say there will be exhausted after what we've done the last 3 days, but I don't think there's any issues. It was playing a bit more of a deep role, to be fair to Basuma, in that first 45 minutes. Spread a lovely cut of balls, but nothing really too, you'd say, ultra, brilliant to report on. And finally, Sonny, as the boys have touched upon, again, did head home during the first half, but it was flagged offside. Did struggle to really make opportunities, but again, it's his first 45 minutes. Let's give it time. Let's judge him. But I think it's fair to say, again, it's always the second half that seems to be bringing the drama to Tottenham during these pre-season friendlies. That's where we are going to go to next. So we are going to go for our next break of the show for our listeners and audio. And taking into that break, you're going to hear from a delighted Emerson Royale, who his English is coming on really, really well. I've got to say, Emerson Royale, alongside the man of the moment in that second half, Richarlison. Again, massive thank you. Over 1,000 of you watching us live. It was all changed for Tottenham in that second half. I come over to you, Crackers, for this second half team. We saw Austin, Royale, Reguilon, Tanganga, Dyer, Lo Celso, Højbjerg, Skip, Perisic, Richarlison and Solomon take to the field. No Tungi on Dombele. I don't know if you want to raise that at all, Cracks. Postecoglou reported beforehand he's a slow burner, but he is back available in training, as my understanding. He was back available on Saturday. So, second half team, what did you make of it, Cracks?
How diplomatic. He's a slow burner. Yes, look, they offered up something different. Royale, as we spoke about, I really like. Solomon, fantastic. Lo Celso seems to have found a new, something new, almost like a new signing. And Richarlison, and as you said, we will touch on this towards the end of the show. Richarlison looks like a striker that suits the Ange Postecoglou system the best in the way that he plays. So it's. I think our best 11 is that first half team with a smattering of one or two from this team, and coming on, somebody like Solomon coming on in the 70th minute. Lo Celso, it starts for me the way he's been playing thus far. Let's see what happens throughout the season. And Royal, so they offered up something a little bit different. Dyer and Tanganga, managers like Dyer, don't they? He always seems to get. He seems to sort of survive every manager. So maybe people see things differently from fans in certain ways. I don't know. There's no suggestion that he's going anywhere, that he offers some cover. So let's see. In this window, Højbjerg might still well go. Skip's a funny one. I don't know what to make of Skip. I don't know what Lee and Patrick and yourself, Ricky, think with him. I'm really, really undecided with Skip. What he is, who he is, where he fits in, if he's going to kick on or not. He just sits right on that cusp, doesn't he? At the moment, he's now Winks has gone, bless him. I think he takes the mantle of that Willy Won't He Winks role for me. So offered something different, didn't they? Let's see. There's plenty of options except for at centre back now. So I do like Richarlison, Rick. I do really, really like Richarlison. I think he needs a run in that side. Maybe he gets one. The elephant in the room raises its head again, doesn't it? He might well get a run. There's something about him I do like. I don't know. You might get one or two games where you get nothing from him, and then all of a sudden you just get like an absolute worldie of a game from him. Maybe that needs to change a little bit. So but it just shows you if you're taking any stock from results on pre-season, the fact that we changed all 11 at half-time tells you exactly what these pre-season games are meant to do. They're not results things at all. So, just completely, you can completely ignore that side of it.
Lee, let's jump in to the Richarlison debate. I mean, look, the first goal, he side foots home. The second one, if we're going to be honest about it, that kind of calamitous defending is what I'd associate with Tottenham when I saw it. I thought that is real Spurs defending, to be honest with you. And, he gets his hat-trick. He was actually unlucky before that not to get a hat-trick in quick-fire time. The keeper saved his header. He had also a couple for offside. So he had a really interesting day when you think about it. Scored twice early in the second half. First side footed home, threw himself in to get the header. And, again, he could have been unlucky not to score more. He's been really unlucky, actually, during his time at Spurs. He's had a lot of offside goals. Been really, really unlucky. The question is, Lee, and again, to not derail the show, do you genuinely believe Richarlison could replace Harry Kane if he was to leave the club this summer, based on what you've seen so far from Richarlison in a Tottenham shirt?
So a couple of things on that. I mean, I think that Jermaine Defoe is absolutely one of the legends of the football club. I love him to pieces. We interviewed him. I've referenced that twice now on 2 different shows. He got a lot of offsides, didn't he, to be fair to him. So, and he also got a lot of goals. I think Richarlison's time at Tottenham has been very fragmented, a little bit like Japhet Tanganga was talking earlier about having runs of games. Granted, Richarlison's had more runs of games than Japhet has, but I mean, I think that he has got the ability. We've seen it in the World Cup. We can score that goal for Brazil. So he has the ability. And to be fair to Richarlison, he could have scored 8 in pre-season. He could have scored 8 in pre-season. We've only had 2 games. He should have had a hat-trick against West Ham. And again, James comment on the screen here, Richarlison can press as well. He wins free kicks. Constantly wins free kicks in dangerous areas when you've got now the likes of Maddison that can go top bins, as we saw in training. So I think there's a couple of things there. I think the key thing is here, and you can happy to at me. So it's on there at Lee McQueen. I'm all over Lee.McQueen on Instagram if you fancy that. A nice place rather than the cesspit of Twitter. So happy for you to kind of get in touch. And I'm chatting on here live in the chat as well. So I absolutely chatting that as well. But when you say replace, you have to eradicate that from the vocabulary because you cannot replace Kane. Kane is irreplaceable. But when you talk about have we got a number 9 and now a genuine lock picker, Rick gets in there for your bingo with Maddison. You look at Maddison and you look at Richarlison. They are the 2 players that you would have bought in one transfer window for 100 million quid to effectively replace Kane, which I just said you can't. Do you see where I'm coming from? They are the 2 players that you would have put into the 60 million on Richarlison, 40 million on Maddison, 100 million to a lock picker and a striker. Now, it's always brilliant. Hindsight, isn't it? It's a wonderful thing. Richarlison come for 60 million or 50 plus add-ons. He's had a shocking season last year. And Rob C points it out, and actually a friend of the show, Paul O'Keefe, mentioned this as well. I think his best scoring season is 13 goals, like Rob C said. I think Paul O'Keefe mentioned that earlier in the week. However, has he got the ability as a number 9 to score, to press, and work in Ange Postecoglou's system? And I think he has. I think he has actually. I think if we did sell Harry Kane, I don't think that we'd be going out and buying this French guy that people are talking about, or another £100 million player. I don't think, a Vlahovic or something. I don't think we would do that because I think the club should, if you're spending 60 million on a number 9, they should be turning around and saying, you're my number 1. And the second point I want to make on that Richarlison thing is Richarlison is a confidence player. Tell me a striker that isn't, by the way. But Richarlison is. And he needs a guy who puts his hand around him and says, you are my man. You are my number 1. I believe in you. I'm going to show you the faith. And this might, a lot of you viewers and listeners might think I'm talking utter rubbish. But I'm telling you now, in an elite team, that is the sort of things that you need to do. I do it in business. I do it all of the time in the businesses that I've built and the teams that I've run, the award-winning businesses that I've built, by the way. You have to sometimes understand that an arm around somebody is better than a kick up the backside. And sometimes a kick up the backside is needed. Tungai, Ndombele, Lo Celso, whatever. But with Richarlison, it is an arm around the shoulder. And I think Postecoglou is the perfect manager to do that. I just want to caveat everything I've just said, Vic, by this, because you asked me a question, I didn't bring the subject up.
Yeah,
I do not want Harry Kane to leave. He is the best player I've seen in a Tottenham shirt, in my opinion, and I love the bloke to death. However, if he does move on, my opinion will be that they will not replace him because, 1, you can't, and 2, they won't go and buy another 100 million striker. What they should do, and this is actually my opinion as well, what they should do is invest the money in an outstanding left-sided centre-back plus another one, I think, and go with the attacking team that you've got with maybe another midfielder. rather than an out-and-out striker, because you've got the ability to be able to fill them gaps in. If Kane was injured tomorrow, and God forbid, but if Kane was injured tomorrow with one of his ankle injuries, yeah, exactly. But if Kane was injured tomorrow with one of his ankle injuries, which he haven't been injured by before 2018, by the way, but if Kane was injured tomorrow with one of his ankle injuries, we'd all be gutted, but everybody would be backing Richarlison to get in that team and show us what we can do, and that should be the same, in my opinion. It's just my opinion.
And can I just quickly add to that?
Yeah, please.
Richarlison scored 13 goals in a poor Everton team. With the quality around him, as in Sonny taking defenders away from him, Maddison finding him, Sarr finding him, Basuma finding him, and the wing backs and full backs providing crosses, I expect Richarlison to score more than 13 goals if he was our main number 9. I think he would get 15 to 20 personally. He is a confidence player. He is someone that essentially needs maybe a ball to bounce off his backside or his back and go in. And then you've seen even in today's game, even as a friendly, once he got that first goal, he just grows and grows into the game.
And that today was big for him, wasn't it, Pat? That today was big for him. Getting them 3 goals, that's going to be big.
The way he picked up the ball and ran and celebrated, you could see the weight being lifted off his shoulders. And Richarlison is a skillful player. He is someone that attacks with intent. He presses with intensity. He gives everything that you would like a player to give. Sometimes, yes, the quality may not be there, but I do believe in a better team, he does score more than 13 goals. So I feel that's a weak argument, because most players, when they move from a smaller team to a bigger team, obviously the output increases when they're around better quality and a better manager. And, so I'm not buying that personally. We've seen Richarlison when he plays for Brazil. He's their first number 9 in front of a lot of quality players, and the guy's literally good for 1 and 2 for Brazil. So the guy can score goals at the highest level.
What do you think, Rick and Crackers? I know you're putting Crackers in, but Rick, I'd like to get your opinion on it. Like, what do you think Richie can do it?
I'm really, really on the fence with this. I know people say get off the fence and make a decision.
Get off the fence, Rick.
I'll be honest. Having seen what I've seen in a Spurs shirt, I'm really reluctant to actually believe that he's good enough to work in a team like Tottenham. But what I would say is that, and again, this will not make me popular, but I don't really care saying it, that I think he's more suited, as you boys have said, to an Ange Postecoglou system than what I've seen so far from Harry in terms of that pressing style. And that's why, if I'm being honest with you, I'm not sure Postecoglou is as concerned as what he's making out about losing Harry than what we're seeing in the media. And I might be wrong in saying that, but I think Postecoglou salivates when he looks at some of the midfield and forwards that he can work with and maybe potentially even add to that. And look, Harry Kane for me is one of, if not the best striker in the world. I want Harry Kane to stay at the football club, but I think more important than anything is I want players that want to play for Tottenham. And if you do not want to play for Tottenham, I don't want you here, regardless of your level. And if you are good enough and if you are world class enough, if you don't want to be on the train, as Lee references to it, then I don't want you to be at the club. So it's a really difficult one. It will break me to see Harry Kane leave the football club, because he is a world class striker. He has proved for the last 7-8 consistent seasons, he will get you 25 to 30 goals a season. But if you think about it, that if those goals can come from different areas of the team, a la James Maddison, Richarlison, Kulusevski, Son, are we really, really in such a bad state than we think? We've had Modric leave, Carrick leave, Berbatov leave, go far back, Sheringham leave. All these players have left. Bale has left. But Tottenham still carry on, and we still find a way of producing yet another. And we
still don't win a trophy.
But that's got to change at some point.
No.
Cracks, let me come.
Yeah, bring Crackers in.
I want to come bring around the Cracks, because, Lee was sitting there saying Postecoglou needs to put an arm around him. And that's exactly what really he's done. After the game, he says Richarlison has got all the attributes in a striker he wants. I've said before that I really like Richy. He's someone who's got all the attributes I look for in a striker. He's got a strong work ethic. He always works in the right areas, presents himself at all times. He was probably a bit unlucky not to get a couple against West Ham the other night. Again, he was in the right areas. I've got a lot of time for him. He's one of those ones that I'm really looking forward to working with. From the outside, you see a player and you try to picture how they fit into the kind of football you want to play. And I certainly think he can. It's a big endorsement, Rich, from Postecoglou of what exactly he thinks of Richarlison. He's backing him, like Lee says. He's put the arm round him. Is that almost already just an indication to him you could be a massive, massive player for this football club, bearing in mind what could happen before the end of this summer transfer window?
Well, with Kane, I think you have to look at what's gone on at Spurs with the past 2 or 3 managers, and he's been not his fault at all, but because of everything that's gone around the club, Kane has become the focal point. He's become the hope. He's become the lifeboat, hasn't he? Almost. He's the one thing that we've been able to cling on to whilst we've had managers that have come and gone and not felt quite Tottenham. There's no connection between the fans and the board at Tottenham, so they haven't felt like Tottenham. So the only thing we've really had is ourselves as a fan base, and Harry Kane and Sonny to a degree. And, you know, they have really been the focal point. Pep Guardiola rarely gets things wrong. I don't think he was too far off when he called us the Harry Kane team. I think he's from the outside looking in. He's a man that knows football. We all got the ump about that comment, but I don't think he was that far off. Now, with Ange coming in, Ange Postecoglou coming in, he's more the team. There's no single component. Everybody has their place. It's a team game with him. Everybody is as important as everyone else. If his ideas and philosophies can be put over and the players buy into it and the fans buy into it as well, then Kane going will be a loss, but not as big a loss as we fear it could be. Under previous managers, Kane going would have been a disaster. With Ange Postecoglou and his philosophies and way of playing, maybe not so much. It won't be ideal. I'd love him to stay, but I'm with you, Rick. If he wants to go, then off you trot. It is as simple as that. I support Tottenham Hotspur, not Harry Kane or any single element in that team. And like I said to you before we come on air, it just looks to me like Richarlison is more of an Ange Postecoglou system player than Harry Kane is. But Harry Kane will always, find ways of scoring goals in anybody's system. I've never had Kane as world class. I've had him that far off of it. I've always said it, so nobody can say sour grapes just because he's going, because I've been saying this even when he was in his pomp and often get stick for it. But I have him just a tiny bit short. Maybe that changes when he goes, if he goes somewhere with a better level of play around him, which undoubtedly you will get at Bayern Munich. There's no two ways about it. They do have a better team squad than we do. That's just a fact. So maybe he goes there and he shows that he can step up to that level. But I do wonder with Kane and obviously wanting to go, Real Madrid ain't in for him. Barcelona ain't in for him. PSG have had a sort of cursory glance. It's only Munich that's come in for him. Man U haven't really come in for him either. And I do wonder sometimes when you're a world-class player, even if that team doesn't need you, a Madrid and a Barca and a PSG and a Man United do come in for you. But it is only Munich that's actually come in for him. So, look, he's too good for us at the moment. He has been, and he's dug us out. He owes us nothing, absolutely nothing, really. He's dug us out so many times. But him going, it might not be as terrible as everybody fears it could be. I hope he stays. Yeah, exactly. I hope he stays. I'm not overly fearful if he does go. It will be a setback, but I think we will find a solution. I think Postecoglou can find a solution if his methods work.
All right, Rick, just quickly. Oh, sorry. Go on, Pat.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Cracks, what's your definition of world class if Harry Kane's not in there? Because for me, I feel he's the best striker in the world. So for me, he has to be world class. I think he's better than.
Can I see if I'm right? Like you done my curry earlier. Can I see if I'm right on what you're going to say?
Yeah. So yeah, please.
I think Crackers will say, because he hasn't done it in the times that we absolutely needed him to, the Champions League final, the 2 League Cup finals, the title challenge when you needed to score, the England quarter final against France when we needed that penalty to go in.
Yeah.
They are the fine margins at elite sport. Is that
what you would say? It's spot on, Lee. It is those moments where you drag your team over the line, even if they're just slightly off of it. They step up, they find a way, they find the solution, and that's where I've never seen from Harry. I've never seen him look round and go, right, okay, this is down to me today, and I am going to do it. I am going to pull this team over the line, which is what Messi does, which is what Ronaldo does or done. And in different positions, don't forget, a world-class goalkeeper is a totally different world-class to a striker or a midfielder or a defender. So as a striker, you have to be putting him up. I can't put him up against a Modric, who's a midfielder. I have to compare him to the world's greatest strikers. And that was Messi, that's Mbappe, that's Ronaldo. And I think that word world class just gets bounded about way too much, because to be world class, it's that tiny little exclusive club of just 3, 4, 5 players. After that, you just dilute the meaning of it, to be honest. So I just set the bar really, really high. Kane's somebody that has some world-class moments, but to be world-class, you've got to do it week in, week out, and in those crucial moments.
I think it's fair. I mean, I'd say he's a guy that, go on, Lee, do you come back in on that?
Yeah, just because you talk about derailing the show, and because we're talking about Kane, I've just got a bit of an update. So I know a lot of people at me, and that's fair enough because I did talk about the contract or whatever, but where I get the information from, my understanding is, I'm not a journalist and I don't have lots of sources and all that sort of stuff, but my understanding is, where I get the information from, absolutely bang on that he stayed when we talked about the Man City thing a couple of years ago. Literally word for word, it played out in the mainstream media. It happened, and I've got an update from that individual that talks to me, and it has been Harry, by all accounts, well, my understanding is that he's been very clear with Tottenham that he will not sign a new contract, that he wants a new adventure, and he wants to go to Bayern Munich. Right, that is the information I'm getting. However, he will not let it drag on throughout the season, and he won't. He doesn't want to be sold at the last minute, because he wants to know where he's going to be and that sort of thing. So it's a little bit like what you said earlier, a couple of weeks ago, Rick, about a bit being a deadline. If he's not sold now, in the next kind of week or so, he will play, give it his all for Tottenham for the season, and then he would go away on a free. But he does, he's keen on a move to Bayern Munich, and he wants to go, and it's clear. So if you want him on the Ange train, it doesn't feel like, I'm understand this is just one person, by the way, but I understand that he doesn't want to be at the football club. And if he wants to change, thank you so much. Everything you've done, Harry, it's time to move on, isn't it, Rick?
And if I can just add to that point, if Harry does want to be here, why would Bayern continue to sniff around a player that's got no interest in going there? So I just must make that point. There'll be no reason for Bayern to keep them coming in for offers if they don't want Harry to be there, and like Harry doesn't want to go there. So look, we'll see how it plays out. We knew it was going to derail the show. I want to fit in the cell, so then we have to just quickly discuss some of the other players that played, and then we will move on to Joe Lewis and that.
Lo Celso, man, he's a bit of a thing, isn't he?
Well, I'm going to go to Pat, then we'll go to Lee and go to Cracks. Pat, let's come to you. Look, he was really bright again today. He scored his second goal of pre-season. Of course, his second goal in a row. And look, really lovely finish. Really creative in that middle of the park. And after the game, Postecoglou said, I'm really happy with Gio. He's been really good in training. You can see he's a quality player. And I think the way we play suits him. I've enjoyed working with him. I think he's enjoying himself in terms of the football we want to play. And yeah, it's going well. And you know what? I'm actually, as Lee said earlier, I think Crack said it actually, it's so refreshing to actually have a manager that you ask a player about a question and he just gives you a straight answer. None of this go and ask the chairman, or none of this I don't want to talk about players. You get the answer straight from the horse's mouth. So how do you feel, Pat, about the potential reignite, a reignation of Giovani Lo Celso having a Tottenham shirt?
Yes, it's like redemption season all over, isn't it? We've got hopefully Ndombele when he comes in, and now we've got Lo Celso, and yeah, I'm here for it, man. I'm really here for it, and it's interesting because, you know, like I said, the first starting 11 is essentially the team that we can pretty much see as there or thereabouts. But when I look at that starting 11, I feel Lo Celso has to be in it. As of right now, with all the minutes that they played, Lo Celso has been one of our standout players, so he deserves to be in the starting 11 for the first game if things continue. And you just look at who does he replace, and it'd probably be, with all the stuff I said about Matar Sarr, it would possibly be him. So yeah, I mean, he's been brilliant. He's played with intensity, he's played with purpose, he's played with desire. A lot of people said that we could always see Lo Celso had talent, but he just didn't have the application and looked like he almost didn't want to be here, maybe sulking and just strutting around. But now he just seems like he's just taking the bull by his horns, got the bit between his teeth, and he's showing everyone like, yeah, this is me, this is what I'm about. And yeah, he seems to have it all. He's attacking, he's scoring goals, he's reignation word of the day. Yeah,
Jesus Christ. Yeah, what's happening now? I'll tell you what, the vocabulary under Ange, I butchered his name, reignation. God, relight my fire, I think. God.
Ricky, I'm loving that Postecoglou is reignation in Lo Celso. Fantastic.
Yeah. But they were
Stay
saying,
tuned.
I mean,
breaking stuff here, groundbreaking.
People were saying that Messi, allegedly, Lo Celso was one of Messi's favorite players, and they're like, this is for a reason. You know, he gets into the Argentina team. He's been one of their main components for the World Cup and Copa America. The guy is a good player, very, very good player. And it's just like you guys were saying, it's whether he wants to be here or not. And if he does buy into Ange Postecoglou and he does buy into what Tottenham are doing, he's brilliant in that number 8 role. Pretty much can do it all. I do remember there was a time, maybe, I can't remember exactly when, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and I think it was a real low point for him where he shied away from a tackle. It was a 50-50, and he basically pussied out of going for the ball. And that's when a lot of fans lost their patience with Lo Celso. So as long as he's willing to give his all, the guy's got talent in abundance, and he seems to be that real difference maker as well. I want to see what team Ange goes for in the next game. Does he put Lo Celso in that starting 11? And then, you know, what can we see from there? And it'll be interesting to see if Ange gives players a bit more than 45 minutes, because sooner or later he's going to have to start picking his first 11, picking his first 14 or 15 and giving them more minutes as we ramp up, you know, to our first game against Brentford. So, yeah, but from what I've seen of him, brilliant, fantastic. And it's good that we're seeing people show or fight for the badge, fight for the shirt, or for the spot, sorry, or a place in that starting 11. Even Perisic, no one's really going on about him, but I mean, I know we don't know what.
Look sharp.
Look sharp again, delivering some brilliant crosses. And when he's playing as a winger, not as a fullback, not having to go back and forth, and you can see his quality as well. So there's still a lot of questions there, and it's good. These guys are giving the manager problems, and that's good, but they're positive problems.
Yep. I'm going to go to Lee Cracks, and we are going to talk about Joe Lewis to close the show. Lee, coming over to you. Based on what you've seen from Lo Celso and what we haven't seen from Ndombele, making you putting you on the spot to give a judgment now, do you think one out of those two are going to stay, or have you seen? Do you think Lo Celso will still stay based on even today, or do you think there is still more to come in his next few weeks before we get a decision? What's your gut telling you on this midfield and how it's going to work out?
It's really difficult because, like, I do agree with most of the stuff that you and Pat have said on Lo Celso, and it is annoying. I said this on a WhatsApp group earlier. I was like, oh, it's really annoying that, you know, Lo Celso's playing well, and Frank was like in the group like, what? Why is it annoying? I was like, because his attitude stinks. Like, it stunk from the minute he walked through the door, and you know, but now it doesn't. It doesn't seem to. So I'm all for giving him another chance per se. I mean, there's a lot of you know, the subject of Lo Celso in the comments just for the listeners on audio, has, is a 50-50 balance in there. But you can't deny that he has been a brilliant player in pre-season. Like he has been a shining light. Some of the touches, some of the dropping of the shoulder, the left foot, he's got like a wand. The through balls, it's like pressing triangle or whatever you're pressing on FIFA. Like, when you press it and it's like a through ball, and it's like, mate, honestly, he has been impressive. There's no doubt. I think with the Tunga and the Bele piece, I personally think that he should go as well, but I don't think Ange does. I think Ange is he's injured at the moment, right? We had a bit of banter, didn't we, on socials earlier?
My understanding is, Lee, is that I think my understanding is he was back in training on Saturday, and obviously Ange has labelled him a slow burner. So I suppose the question is, he's got to play some minutes, surely. He's got to play, obviously, that come the next game coming our way.
Did he mean slow burner as in like and belly, or did he mean slow burner as in he's not quite recovered from his injuries? It's difficult. I mean, again,
I think I think Ange said that he's literally not up to speed with the rest of the team, so he's been doing some by himself. So he's
doing it on his own.
Yeah, so he's going to hopefully feature in the next game.
It's interesting because I think, and this is why I'm getting splinters up my backside now, Rick, being on your fence. But this is why I'm on the fence with this, because I actually think, as we had the graphic up earlier with the Porro mullet, in case everybody forgot it, he had a mullet. When we had the graphic up earlier, the midfield three was like kind of two almost. There was no six there. It was kind of two wideys and then like a 10. I don't think we're going to play like that. Clearly, I think we're playing with a 6 and then two forward 8s or 2 10s. And so therefore the midfield three for me could be Basuma. Let's just go with a hold right as Basuma, because I think Basuma's going to play number 6. So Basuma, and then 2 of Madison, Lo Celso, Ndombele, Decky, if you pulled him inside and put Porro up, or to buy to get a new one. I don't think Højbjerg or Skip fit that kind of Madison, Lo Celso, and Ndombele role. Do you see where I'm coming from? And I don't think that Ange Postecoglou, and I'm absolutely nailing his name, by the way. Now I haven't even made one mistake on his name. I need credit for that. I need some claps, some likes on the show, man. Postecoglou, talk to me.
It's rubbed off on me. Look what you've done to me now tonight. Jesus.
Do you know what I mean? Exactly. So with Ange Postecoglou, I'll mess it up now. I don't think he's going to play. I don't think it's one of Madison, Lo Celso, or Ndombele. I think it's 2 of them 3. Does that make sense? That's just personally what I think. And if that is what the case is, there's an argument to keep all of them. Because if he's playing 2 every week, surely you need one to come off the bench. So, and therefore with a Papa Matar, maybe a Sarr could play that actually. I would skip Sarr, Højbjerg, Basuma. There's 4 number 6s. So maybe it's 3 number 6s and then 4 number 8 or advanced 8s. I don't know. That's why I'm on the fence, because we haven't seen enough of Ndombele since he signed, let alone this pre-season, since he signed, to show that his attitude doesn't stink either, because I think personally both of them stunk. But Cracker's made a good point earlier that when we signed Lo Celso, we signed obviously Ndombele as well in the same summer. Poch signed him in August, Poch went by the November, and they've had stagnant defensive coaches since. So under an Ange, they could be well beaters. The only thing I would say is Lo Celso has been good at other clubs that he's been at and got kind of rave reviews, whereas Ndombele has still been best part of 60 minutes per game, if you're lucky, or come off the bench for half an hour. And that's the only way I would look at it.
Cracks, we've got 2 games left of pre-season, Shakhtar Donetsk and Barcelona. Not a lot of time now for fringe players to impress Postecoglou. Does Ndombele, in your opinion, have enough time to still have a decent say as to whether he'll be at the club come the end of this summer window? How do you see for you that midfield playing out before we bring in this chat about Joe Lewis?
Well, Ndombele want it. It's as simple as that. As Kane wants to stay, Ndombele just wants to actually play. He's an unbelievable talent. He's a great footballer. He could be potentially getting on for like £100 million player with his ability. We've seen it in flashes. Bale spoke about him in training and some of the things he can do. But what good is he if he doesn't want to pull up the trees and do it? That's the problem with it. So all of this lies with Ndembele, and if he wants to play, he walks into that team. If he fulfills his potential, he absolutely walks into that team. And as people have been pointing out in the comments, there's also Bentancur to come back if he comes back from that injury.
I forgot Bentancur.
There you go. So doesn't that show you just how the embarrassment of riches we've got across some of those areas of the team? This team could actually go and do something if it all clicks and falls into place and happens. But look, Ndembele's biggest problem is Ndembele. He's got to want it. Now, if he doesn't, the club just have to be brave and go, okay, you don't want it, out the door. If we have to take a hit on him for the actual transfer fee, then so be it. That's what the mob down the road done with players that didn't want to be there. And look what it's done for them. We have to do the same. Sometimes these players just don't work. So, and then sometimes they wasn't working and then they do work. So it's that fine balance and a little bit of luck sometimes as well, that all of a sudden you get the right coach and the player quite fancies it, like Lo Celso, that just seems to be the redemption man. Let's see if Ndembele is the same. But, you know, so far there's been a fair few players managers, that just have not been able to get a tune out of him. I hope he stays. I hope he pulls up trees, because he is an incredible talent. Honestly, he is a frightening talent. The little bits and pieces I've seen of him when he has wanted it. But he's got to want it. He has got to want it.
And if you don't pull him up, crackers here either.
No. Well, it's these types of players that annoy me more than anybody else, because I watch my young lad absolutely burn to be a pro footballer. He will do anything to become pro. He would run through brick walls for it, absolutely run through brick walls for it. And when you've got that ability to do it and you don't use it, that kills me. That kills me.
Street footballer, isn't he, Crackers?
Oh,
it's like just street footballer, isn't he? Do you not agree? Like, he's like that kind of freestyle street guy, you know, street footballing freestyle guy.
He's a nailed on Tottenham player. When he's on fire and fancies it, he's that type of player that you want to see. So, but again, I want to be really careful from this point onwards on how much I go in on players, because I did a little bit on Delhi and I apologised publicly over that, because again, you don't know what's going on in the background. There may be something going on in Ndembele's life that means he's not pulling the trees up, if you like. If there isn't, and he is just wasting it away, that's a terrible waste. Yeah. So, but the club have to deal with it. Either shape up or go, or get the help you need if you need it. If there's something going on to be that player, to be that footballer.
Conscious of time, look, I am going to say, look, just to summarise on some of the other players' performances, Emerson Royale, I think, again, today, really impressive. You would say at the moment, you would argue and say that he's maybe got that spot nailed on as one of the fullbacks out of the two. Perisic, we talked about, again, he's looking really, really fit, constantly running, still been looking for a move away from the club. We'll wait to see what happens there. Eric Dyer, people won't not be saying this, didn't actually do much wrong today. It was his first minutes of pre-season. Reguilon, fairly decent display without really being tested. Oliver Skip, back in the team. One of the fittest players because of obviously the way he played in the Euros. It'll be interesting to see how he does progress under Ange Postecoglou, and he said he's got a massive future under him, just for that reference on Skippy. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg playing again today in an anchor role, really, despite strong links to Atletico Madrid. And this guy maybe should have got more praise on this show, but we're running out of time. Manor Solomon, another really, really good 45 minutes from him. The
new Ricky J. Norwood. Ricky J. Norwood.
He is a Ricky J. Norwood. But we are going to go for our final break of this show for our listeners on audio. Just a very quick reminder, guys, that we are delighted and powered by NordVPN. You can use that code LWS to get you a huge discount off your NordVPN plan, plus 1 month for free and a bonus gift. It is completely risk-free with Null's 30-day back money guarantee. You may need that for our overseas listeners for, of course, upcoming friendlies against Barcelona and Shakhtar Donetsk. Right. We are going to very, very briefly, and I mean very, very briefly, touch upon the Joe Lewis situation. The reason why I say very briefly is that my wife is currently driving around in circles, waiting for me to finish this show so I can bring in the 2 kids under 3. So if this does go over time, this is on record and live, so I can play this back and show her it wasn't my fault. And you can clearly see who wears the trousers in this relationship firmly, aka get yourself a lovely Greek wife, 100%. Right. Joe Lewis and where we stand in relation to this current situation. So where do I start with Tottenham Hotspur? Isn't it baffling where this football club goes? Look, we're going to be careful, obviously, what we say because this is currently in the midst of the courts. And look, all we can say at the moment, obviously, is that from a perspective, Joe Lewis has surrendered himself to the courts after an indictment of a number of charges that he is now being trialed for. And look, as things stand, what we understand, according to the Telegraph, is Tottenham do not face any threat from the Premier League over the club's former owner, Joe Lewis, being indicted by the US prosecutors over an alleged brazen insider trading scheme. Lewis gave up any significant control of Tottenham last year, and it has emerged that he also gave up control of ENIC. And that, of course, is the company that owns Spurs. The Premier League have actually confirmed to the Telegraph that they are satisfied that Lewis is not part of the ownership of Tottenham and that it has nothing to do with the running of the football club. And therefore, no threat of sanctions or even being forced to sell the club should Lewis be found guilty of classic corporate corruption. And look, of course, you can go to Bloomberg to get a full breakdown of those charges. But we're going to close the show on this. So we're going to get Pat, Crackers, Lee's opinion before we close it. Pat, let's start off with you. Look, again, we're waiting for obviously more factual information to come through. But give me your thoughts on what you feel it's like as a fan at the moment when you've had the Parategy situation, you've got this situation surrounding the former owner of the football club. It's just not a good look, is it, Pat?
No, it's not. And funny enough, this goes back to something that us as Spurs fans will probably remember early on in the week when all these reports came out saying Joe Lewis has demanded that ENIC sells Harry Kane if he doesn't sign a new contract. And we was like, huh? Where did this come from? Joe Lewis has never got involved with Spurs before. Why would he get involved now? And then I've got all rival fans saying, oh, you know, you're shitting yourself because it's make or break now. Harry's gone. Joe Lewis has put his foot down. I was like, do you really believe that now of all times he's going to step out? And then obviously from what's happened now, you can clearly see Joe Lewis has nothing to do with the club in that sense anymore. So going back to what's happened, it's like, you know, they give with one hand and they take away with the other. Like, we're just starting to enjoy Ange ball. We're just starting to see, you know, these redemption stories. We're just starting to see the youngsters come through. We're just starting to see all of these things start to come into fruition. And then boom, we're hit with a bombshell. And it's just bombshell after bombshell. And it's like you're ducking and dodging and, you know, you're almost, your back's off the ropes and you feel like you're doing well. And then you're hit with a haymaker and you're just back on the ropes again. And it's mental, man. And it's just like, can Spurs fans catch a break? Can we actually have something to enjoy and look forward to? You know, you've had the increase in ticket prices. You've had the this, the that. And now, and it's like, obviously, you know, we don't know the ins and outs. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm all of a sudden, you know, studied in law and I understand, you know, what's going on. But I will say that it does bring shame to the football club. And us as fans, we feel the brunt of that because irrespective if Joe Lewis is connected to the club now or not, his name is synonymous with Tottenham Hotspurs and with ENIC. So when you think of Joe Lewis, you think of the owner of the football club. Even if he's not per se, most people will tell you that he is. And it doesn't look good. It just looks like, it just throws mud on the club, doesn't it? And then, you know, we as fans, it's a stain that is hard to wash off. It's a stain that's hard to wash off the football club. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. I just feel that, can we ever just catch a break as Spurs fans? Can we ever just enjoy a moment or two? And yeah, and it's always, you know, during the most important moments of the season, during transfer period. So as a Spurs fans, we wonder, will this have any implication on us you know, going out and getting our transfer targets and moving players out? it's come into fruition that possibly it won't. But again, these are all questions that we don't know the answers to. So I just feel obviously a bit embarrassed, a bit, just like, why us? Like, can we catch a break? There's other clubs that you never see any of this stuff happening. Paratici getting banned, this happened. Our chief football offer, was it CFO, whatever Scott Munn's name is? He hasn't started yet. No one knows where he is. And there's just one thing after another. So without going overboard, it is kind of just embarrassing. That's how I feel, really. That's my feelings on it.
Lee,
Rick, what do you think? Yeah.
Well, Rick's just gone up to the poop deck of the super yacht to get himself a cocktail. So this is why he isn't getting involved in any conversation. But look, it's Rick was quite right. He's read out what's going on. This is something that pertains to Joe Lewis personally. He now has no control over the club legally or ENIC. So the club and Joe Lewis, I know there's people out there that don't see it that way, but legally, as things stand, they're now separate entities. So that's the way it is. The optics of it are that Joe Lewis is still the owner of Tottenham Hotspur. He isn't, but I'm talking about the public perception of it is that Joe Lewis owns Tottenham Hotspur. Even Jim White on Talk Sport today was still in his opening monologue of the show when they discussed this subject. Tottenham Hotspur owner Joe Lewis, but he isn't. So look, you have to get that part of it absolutely right. I've seen a lot of people on social media and here and now suggesting that this has an implication with Tottenham Hotspur, that Tottenham Hotspur are somehow involved. Personnel at Tottenham Hotspur are involved. They're not. Okay, they are not. And until such time as they're proven that they are in a court of law, they are not. They are 100% not involved in this at all. So there's some people out there. Be very, very careful what you say about this, because this is a live court case and you can be done for liable if you start making libelous accusations about anybody else involved in this. Back to the public perception part of it. This is where the problem is, because he is still attached in people's minds to Tottenham Hotspur, not legally, but he is attached to Tottenham Hotspur. So this is some mud that is sticking to the club by association. Do you know what? I'm more concerned that our chief operating official or whatever he's coming in as, Scott Munn, hasn't started because of the what's gone on with a contractual wrangle. Apparently we had Paratici in at the club whilst the sword of Damocles hung over him with certain charges. That concerns me more. They're issues that directly affect the running of Tottenham Hotspur. This doesn't. They're the things I'm concentrating on. So look, it's just yet another saga in this ownership of Tottenham Hotspur, whether they like it or not. And because of everything that's gone on before with ENIC and the way they're perceived to run the club, this has just done them no favours. They've got no credit in the tank, have they, really, with many, many fans. Now this comes along and it just looks like, by association, which isn't legally, but in people's minds, just another horror show that's happening at Tottenham Hotspur. But please, everybody, just be careful what you've got to say about this, because this is a live court case. It might be 1,000 miles away in America, but you can and do and say things which could land you in a lot of bother. So watch this space.
You're not talking about my divorce, are you there? That feels like a live court case going on. Lee, let's go over to you, mate. I tell you what, I just walked into Watch Yourself. It's live. You could be liable. I've just come back here from the door, from the car. Leona, you mate. Let's close it with you, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, I echo what the lads have already said. I mean, I totally echo what Crackers has said there as well. I mean, there's not much really to put on there. We don't know the ins and outs of the details of that, unless the four of us or any of the four of us got the inside track. It is a live court case. No one really has the inside track when it's live because of the things that Crackers have just said. So I just think that I think for us fans, fans of the football club, we've got bigger things to worry about in terms of centre-backs. And I keep going back on centre-backs, but look, Joe's got a big thing to worry about in his life and what's going on with him. We've got more things to worry about in our own lives, but with our football club, we've got to worry about centre-backs and we've got to worry about getting 3 points against Brentford and getting some really good minutes in our legs and that sort of stuff. What I would say, and a couple of people, King Hodder, I think, you said it as well, what I would say is that there's a lot of football clubs that are owned by very, very wealthy people that have a lot of stories attached to them that may or may not be true, and we never know. But we also know that there's 3 state-owned clubs, I think it is now, isn't it, in the Premier League, soon to be 4. There's a lot of stuff that goes on politically in them states and in them countries as well. So I think with the rise of social media and everybody being able to have a say on something, these sorts of issues become a wider thing for us normal fans. But quite frankly, let's be brutally honest, as normal fans, doesn't really, we shouldn't really need to worry about it. We've got enough to worry about with energy prices and mortgage rates. Let's not worry about Joe Lewis's acts or non-acts, just to see where I'm coming from. So I'm pretty pretty pragmatic about it, to be honest. What I would say though, moving forward, is we need centre backs, and I do agree with the Scott Munn situation, because I'm loving Scott Munn. I want to see Scott Munn. I call, where is Scott Munn? I put a tweet out about it. People criticise me. What do you want to see him for? Because I want to see the plan. I want to see the vision for the football club. Because just because we've got Ange Postecoglou in the driving seat now, we still haven't seen the vision and we still haven't seen the plan. No one has actually come out and communicated to us. All they've done is gone, here's Ange Postecoglou, who we're all falling in love with. Even Pat, to be fair, he was a bit sceptical at the beginning. But no, to be fair, now you're probably falling in love with him. We're all falling in love with what we're seeing with him. But they've just thrown him in. What else is happening? What else is happening? What is the vision and the goal of this football club? We talk about Harry Kane wanting to leave or may not wanting to leave or whatever. But the reality is, maybe this is part of the problem, because we ain't got a vision and we ain't got a goal.
Can I say, if you to come back on this point, I think the club are very, very lucky that Postecoglou is such an excellent communicator.
Yeah,
and is like very much driven to the point, tells you exactly what you want to hear. Because had we not had someone of that ilk as the manager, you can bet your bottom dollar that 100% on the back of this current news about Joe Lewis, whether he's connected or not to the football club, and the fact that Scott Munn isn't here, and the fact that we haven't got the centre-backs, people would be going a lot more up in arms than what they would be at the moment, because there's a feeling that Postecoglou is a nice, feel-good kind of manager that is warming a lot of Spurs fans. I'm not saying he's going to win us the league. I'm not saying he's going to bring loads of trophies, although he's delivered one today, and it's not the one everyone wants, the Tiger Cup. But what I would say is that there's already a warm feeling towards the guy, and that can only stand him good in his stead, 100%. But
he's a good PR face, isn't he, Rick? He's a very good PR face. Yeah, it's as simple as that. And But don't forget, we do have a PR expert on the board of this club as well. And I'm sure they will find a way to absolutely smooth this all over and make sure that the good name of Tottenham Hotspur is taken forward too, because they're so good at PR. Carry on.
I mean, you wait until, and I hope this doesn't happen. I promise you on my heart, I hope this doesn't happen. But you wait when the football starts getting a bit dodge, right, in the first 4 games of the season or whatever, you watch how this quickly changes and turns. Because at the moment, the results don't matter. The football's good, 79% possession, 34 shots. I mean, we're thinking this is, oh my God, right? We're not used to this stuff. But if we keep doing that, and then all of a sudden we lose to Brentford, we lose to Man United, and then we're going into the 3rd game of the season with no wins, and Scott hasn't started, and Presti's still pulling the strings, and there's stuff going on in the media about our former owner, and it does feel like a bit of a shit show, doesn't it? And that's the thing. Leadership is about coming out and showing and communicating when times are tough. It's easy to come out when times are good. That's easy. All of you lot can do that. The hard part is when it is tough, and you have to stand up and go, "This is what we're going to do about it. This is where we're going. This is where we're coming from." Do you see where I'm coming from? So you're absolutely right. Parachuting Ange in, and the fact that he's a brilliant communicator is probably one of the reasons why we hired him in the first place. So fair enough, but. They are lucking out to a certain degree on that. Nothing's changed. As Crackers says, just to coin his phrase, I love it. Nothing changes until it changes. And this is why I keep coming back to the centre-backs. Time and time again, we go for either the cheaper option on the centre-backs now, or we leave the manager short. Whether or not it's Pochettino, if it's Harry Redknapp, if it's Antonio Conte, please don't make it happen with Big Ange. It's just I'm pleading. I don't care if there's rival fans. I am pleading. Please do not do this time, because this is a sliding doors moment. You go and get a Virgil van Dijk in types at the centre back. We can have it changes the mood. It lifts everybody, the
100%.
fans, the players, and the quality on the field. Do not go and sign a makeshift left-sided centre back and leave us short, because we will pay for it in the long run. And if you do. It just shows what contempt there will be for this football club.
Can I just say, we've actually had a conversation tonight for the first time about life potentially after Harry Kane, and nobody seems that massively fearful about it. Now, if someone had that conversation 10, 11, 12 weeks ago before Postecoglou turned up, I don't think we would be talking like this. And I think that just shows you in the space of 9 to 10, 11 weeks how we've emotionally maybe accepted that Harry is maybe coming towards the end at Tottenham, and how one man has come in and already set a vision. And although we're only basing it on what we're seeing over pre-season, there's a genuine belief that with the players that he's got, and hopefully there's more to come, that we could still have a successful season. And I think, again, that just shows you already how we are, really, really open towards this new manager and giving him time and backing him and believing in something. And that's despite the fact that the current hierarchy are still the same. Nothing has changed. We have not heard from Scott Munn. We have got the situation now around Joe Lewis. And I think that tells you everything as fans where, yes, we're being brought into it again. And again, we've all said it on this point here on Last One on Spurs. And for people that are, guests that come on Last One on Spurs as well, I think we're all of the opinion that something has to change at board level. There needs to be fundamental changes to move this club forward 100%. But there's no point every single show to dominate it and not be able to enjoy things that are happening in and around the football club. So look, it has been a tremendous show. So much love in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you again to all of our wonderful guests. Pat, thank you so much. I have to apologise that these shows seem to be getting longer, and we're only in pre-season. We've got to bring these back down, because we've not even started the season yet. They can't be 2 hours every week.
Well, it used to be, Rick, it used to be just because I was on it and I used to talk for England. But now you've got Crackers that talks for England, you've got Patrick that talks for England, and the man that we haven't beaten yet, who is way, way ahead of us for talking for England, is the mighty, the majestic Danny Kelly, because no one talks more than the legend that is Danny. We've had him on the show, and he's a friend of the show as well, of course. But it's because we've got talkers on the show now. You have to ban us, mate. We won't be able to come back all together.
We could just get bots to replace you, maybe, and just got to get cardboard cuts.
AI, mate. AI is coming. It's coming. AI. Just get AI Crackers and an AI Macca.
I mean, how do we feel? We're going to be replaced by a self-service checkout. Where are we going with this? Pat,
Chatbot McQueen.
Oh, my God. Can I get the real one back instead? Pat, thank you so much, my friend. Where can everybody find your insightful opinion? You're going to be on there a lot, Pat. And I will apologise to them. They are 2 hours. It's been a wonderful show. It's so much love.
It's been a pleasure. I love it. Love being on with such good guests like Lee. Your host, co-host Lee and Crackers. Obviously, I'm Patrick Tyrant. You lot should know me by now. But if you don't, I'm Patrick Tyrant, Tyrant on Twitter and Instagram. Follow me, connect with me, interact with me. And yeah, it's been great, man. It's always good to talk about Tottenham. Things look like they're heading in the right direction to a degree. Still no talk on the DOF yet, which is concerning. None of us touched on that. But obviously we're waiting for Scott Munn, the CFO. I mean, there's all these titles, but at the end of the day, we just want to see the manager backed. I don't want to see Postecoglou become the fool guy. And I just want to see us go in the right direction. We finished 8th, 2 points or 6. Even though it feels like it's far away, it's not that far away if we just get the components right. But anyway, enough blabbering on. Yeah, I'm Patrick Tyrant. It's been brilliant. Thank you, everyone. That's what I've got to say.
Diamond, Cracks, thank you so much, mate. We will bring these back down to a normal, respectable level, hour and 50 minutes for what's to come in the next few weeks. Cracks, thank you so much as always, my friend.
You say that now, but just wait until the season starts, and then another like disastrous sideshow behind the scenes that isn't football. Something else comes up, and it's another 3-hour show again. So yeah, I'm at Mr. Cracknell across all the socials, except on Mumsnet, where I'm Deirdre O'Riordan, a housewife from Cheshire. That's my alter ego. I'm on now, discussing recipes and best way to get the kids out of the car whilst hosting a YouTube show. I'm across all of that on there, Rick.
Don't want to worry you, but Mumsnet's just launched back up now. You've just said that. Thank you, mate.
Thank you very much, everyone. Pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Lee, let's close with you, mate. Always lots going on at Tottenham. And this is why these shows are, like I say, the way they are, because there's so much to cover right now. Mate, thank you so much. Lots to come as always. Big shows coming up as always.
Yeah, for sure, mate. Lovely to be back on at Lee McQueen on the socials, Lee.McQueen on Insta. I'll be floating in and out from Spain over the next kind of few weeks. And topping up on my tan, to be fair. So get involved. Phoenix51 at phoenix51.io. Do not worry about getting involved in that. But yeah, can't wait for the football start. I actually don't know when our next game is. It's Shakhtar, isn't it? Back at home.
August the 6th. August the 6th.
August 6th. Yeah.
Oh, it's a while.
Sunday the 6th.
Yeah,
it's a while. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Let's see what happens. Hopefully we get centre backs in before the weekend. It'd be good, wouldn't it? What are we on Wednesday?
Yeah, I mean, that's
Lee's a lucky man, isn't he, Rick? I'd love to go to Spain as much as he does.
Crackers. Exactly. You should try it, Sam.
This overseas life's not for everyone, boys. Come on. Listen, I want to say a massive thank you. We're taking you way over time. Look, from the wonderful Patrick Tyrant, from the superb Richard Cracknell, from the brilliant Lee McQueen. Look, we have been the last one on Spurs. As always, thank you for all your love, all your comments. We're back with you before you know it, as always. From all of us here, please keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on, you Spurs.